This podcast is brought to you by RYYZN Make Life Workout, a health and self-development platform dedicated to helping busy, everyday Kiwis manage their physical health and upskill their mental well-being.
Through sharing relatable and practical content from health practitioners, as well as showcasing interesting stories from interesting people.
For more shows, content, events, and coaching, head to our website, www.ryz-workout.com. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Frequency Club podcast. My name is Marwin Salario.
And I'm Sinead Bierman. We're here talking all things self-development, growth and mindset.
In this week's episode, we chat to Ironman and mental health advocate Adam Sommerville. He shares his journey on how his mental health deteriorated, especially during COVID times, how that almost led him to commit suicide on the beach, him calling a helpline, how that saved his life, and the birth of the goal of becoming an Ironman.
Adam speaks to his non-negotiables that he has in play to continue working on his mental fitness, and also how completing that Ironman challenged him not only physically but also mentally.
An essential listen if you or know of someone going through some mental turmoil. There's lots of practical steps and advice to help you navigate that situation.
Be sure to let us know your thoughts once you've had a listen, and make sure you subscribe and follow along at the High Frequency Club on all your favourite audio platforms, including Instagram and YouTube.
Enjoy the show. I think it's important to not identify as like our traumas or our circumstances, but it is also important to give context to the triumphs, right? Because it brings humanity into the experience and helps the story become much more relatable. Because what may seem to be like this extraordinary thing, and it is extraordinary, everyone has the capacity to get through adversity, whatever degree that might be. And it makes it just super relatable for people to digest. So, Adam, bro, what do we have to know about your past and your upbringing to help us understand the person we're listening to today?
Yeah, so me, I'm a Auckland kid, grew up in Mangere Bridge my whole life, so South Auckland. Spent 24 years of my life out there, so it's a big part of who I am, and I guess it's a place I still call home, even though I'm not living there at the moment. All my closest friends grew up there with me. We were in such like a tight-knit group of friends. You know, the boys are like a 5-minute walk away down the road to hang out with, which was awesome. And they're to this day still my best mates, you know, so I'm lucky to have these friends for 27 plus years now. They're cool, you know, incredible mates. Just growing up through, mum and dad gave us the best upbringing we could ever possibly imagine. You know, they would fold themselves in half to make sure we were okay and happy. I remember times, mum and dad might have been struggling to make things meet, and mum and dad picked up an extra job as cleaners at like a kindergarten at night time. Us kids would go along with them because they didn't have anybody else to look after us. Probably made life 10 times harder for them trying to clean whilst we were running around this like kindergarten. Mum and dad always made life as best as it could for us, me and my 2 sisters, which was incredible. It was a little bit tough growing up with 2 sisters. They pick on you, try and dress you up, but upbringing through kind of all of that was, absolutely incredible. Got to go to such an amazing school, went to St. Peter's College here in Auckland, and then moved on to university.
What did you study there?
Firstly studied visual arts and design. And then found out that, after, so much time doing design at school and then into university, it just wasn't for me. And after that, kind of just came out of it like, well, that was a bit of a waste of time. And then kind of had to think about, what I really wanted to do in life. So I went back to university, studied a Bachelor of Sport. So I did physical education and coaching as my major. Kind of came out of that as aiming to do, physical education, be a PE teacher. Came out of university and was like, actually, I don't want to do that. Did outdoor education for like a few years and then kind of flipped between the two. And then physical education, outdoor education, turned into physical training as a PT. And
Nice.
Bit of a journey.
That is a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship now with mental health, bro? Because I know searching through your social media, as well as I've gone to the Brothers Brain Chat for all the brothers with you there, and we'll touch on that. Let's unpack. I started this podcast with the man who overcame suicide to then become an Ironman. At what point did your mental fitness start becoming a pivotal part of your focus?
It probably had its like first effect back in probably like 2019. It's probably the first time we've seen like mental health impact the group as a whole close to home. One of the boys took his own life. That was something that kind of absolutely rocked the team. Like everybody was just like, what? You know, like nobody knew what to do or, you know, how to feel in that moment. And it's kind of, that first thing, you know, when it knocks on your front door, we kind of shine a bit more of a spotlight to it. And it was kind of at that point, you know, a few of the boys stepped forward and said, you know, we're kind of feeling the same. It was kind of the first forefront of it. It's like, you know, the guys around us are kind of like speaking out about how they're feeling, which kind of made me thought, you know, how am I feeling? You know, I'm always kind of see myself as kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, you know, with coaching at Les Mills and F45, you're always kind of that happy face for other people to see. Like, you know, like the gym's the sanctuary for some people, you know, you may be battling all these problems, but as a coach, as soon as you kind of step in that front door, like you flip a switch and you're...
You turn it on.
Yeah, you're that solace for other people. Because it kind of got to the point where I'd done that so much in coaching and stuff that I'd gotten so good at it that I was almost just putting this big front on for now all parts of my life, not just coaching. And kind of felt like, you know, all the boys might be struggling through these things and I'm going through these issues, but I don't want to burden them with that. And from there it just started to kind of compile and just build up to the point where, you know, 2020 with the wonderful COVID that it was, threw some pretty hefty curveballs in through that year, which kind of just, you know, kept building and building. And, you know, I kind of mentioned it to you when we were at the Brothers Brain Chat, you know, you hear other guys kind of tell their stories, and as guys we are kind of competitive in these sorts of spaces, and, you know, you hear these other guys talking about these insane problems that they have going on, and you're like, oh, I'm only going through this, you know, like it's nothing compared to you, so I'll just keep quiet and not say anything about it. And so that was pretty much 2020, so that was kind of like ended a long-term relationship, having to move out of the place I called home at the start of lockdown, which was pretty wild. From there, you know, working on 50% pay for a good chunk of that whole lockdown period was real stressful in terms of like financials, to then ended up being made redundant post that, and then things just kept building from there. And it got real heavy, towards the end of 2020. You know, I tried to steer the ship a bit better in like a more positive direction, and try and, I guess, use what I was going through to potentially create like a t-shirt brand called Speak, you know, about trying to reach out to your friends, or just like little conversation starters, or just nice sayings on t-shirts and stuff like that. And it was kind of a good way to kind of channel that negative energy into something that could be positive. But yeah, I spent ages on that, and we, you know, like created this whole brand and like made a font and everything, kind of used my design skills that I'd brushed off ages ago. And it got to the point where it was kind of in a good place, and I was kind of ready to launch it off the back of everything. And that Christmas, New Year's period, my laptop got stolen, and it was quite a fossil of a laptop, like a real old school Mac that didn't connect to the cloud or anything, and it pretty much had that whole work on it that I'd funneled all this negative energy into. And that was ripped away, and it was kind of like almost the final straw for me. To the point of 2021, you know, 7th of January, I hadn't really slept in a few weeks properly, you know, more than 2 or 3 hours a night. You know, some days I'd go to work the next day with not sleeping, which is pretty wild. 7th of January went down to Milford Beach, and just made the decision there was then and there. I'm going to take my own life. I didn't want to burden anybody about that. Just kind of, I guess, what I thought would be the nicest way possible, which is ridiculous. There's no ever nice way. But yeah, I think so much had built up, and I felt like I just couldn't talk to anybody about that stuff. So yeah, there we were on the beach, ready to make that decision. Luckily enough, I don't know what it was. something stopped me, like on the beach, couldn't move. But still, yeah, I've mentioned before, like I was still willing to go through with that process. You know, I was kind of 100% committed to it. Because, you know, depression kind of takes you in a place where so much of everything around you is not true. You kind of get into this mindset of like no common sense, you know, nothing's kind of rational in that thought process. You kind of think that, you know, the world's going to be better without you, it's going to be easy, I'll see you later, kind of not thinking about the repercussions of what it's going to have to the people around you. And you kind of just get to the point where you think not many people care about you, which is ridiculous to say, you know. You're like, especially sitting here now, like I look back on it, of where I was, and I guess, you know, through the journey, to the people that it's affected massively, like me talking about it or telling them I've been through that, to see their reactions to it, has been immense. But yeah, on that night on the beach, yeah, for some reason, pitch black, you know, no waves, no sound. My phone just lit up, and I don't know what it was, if it was a notification or whatever, but that was kind of the point that weirdly snapped me out of this mindset. And then to that point, I was lucky enough to remember that one of the boys had reached out earlier to 1737. He said it's as simple as a text message. All you got to do is send a text. That's all I did. I sent a text saying I need help.
You're still on the beach?
Still on the beach,
Got it.
sitting there, literally a few metres away from the water. I just sent the text saying I need help. And literally I got a phone call within like 2 minutes. It rang once, I ignored it, and kind of panicked, like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, oh god, I've told somebody, shit. You know, it's kind of had this mindset that if I answered the phone, they were going to be annoyed at me for doing this. And they rang again, still didn't answer. They rang a third time, and I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I can hang up, like, it's fine. Yeah, I answered the phone, and the person on the other end was the most kindest, understanding person I think I've ever spoken to. They just knew what to say, and just kind of gave me a chance to get it all out. Like, it's a weird feeling, you know, when I kind of look back on it. It's somebody that doesn't know me from a bar of soap, and has asked, you know, a certain series of questions that has literally popped the lid off this jar, and everything's gone flooding out. We talked on the phone for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And it was during that conversation that they set the goal for me to become an Ironman. And so it's literally from, I guess, here at rock bottom at that point, having that conversation, to them putting something in place, to be sitting here, you know, like 2 weeks post Ironman, is pretty incredible. So yeah, that person genuinely on the phone saved my life that night.
I really want to get to the Ironman part. I really do. But there's so much in between too.
Yeah,
that I want to
it's a big journey.
What a huge journey. What did that person? What do you remember the questions that person asked? What was their name? Do you remember the conversation?
I don't remember their name. I think, you know, kind of when we start a phone call, more often we start with our name. And I think it was at that point of like starting the conversation, I was scared, I was so nervous about it that I just kind of missed the whole first part of it. They just they asked, you know, why, or kind of why I was feeling that way, and kind of how that made me feel, and it kind of just got me talking a bit more about how I was feeling, and because of the why. And they just kept kind of like semi-repeating those two questions, but like just kind of jumping in at certain segments to, you know, as I'd be talking through something, they were like, oh yeah, and how was that part made you feel? And then now we're off down this route, and then now we're back down the other way. You know, why is this happening? You know, and why do you think this could be
And
the
was
reason
that like
for that?
the first time ever that happened? That you had that type of conversation?
Ever, you know, and it's like, it's weird to say, it's kind of cool to look back on, but it's a person that holds no judgment over you. Like, it's a conversation that is so open, and it doesn't matter what you say, they're there to listen, and they're going to have no judgment on what you say, what you kind of spit out at that time. And it's just a weird feeling, you know, like so often we go into a conversation or we hang out with people and we're kind of worried about their judgment and what they might say or what they might think of you. Whereas this lady was just, let it all out, go for it, you know.
And that's the tough thing about being a friend who you know you're going to go to and open up to, right? They do have that place of judgment.
Yeah.
In a good way most times, right?
Most
They just want you to feel better, therefore they'll jump in, provide solutions. But at that time, what it sounds like, that lady wasn't necessarily providing you solutions, she was just opening the space for you to unpack certain thoughts that you hadn't unpacked before.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I kind of refer to it as like, for us as guys, we are not always the ones to take the first step. If someone is there to kind of open that gate for us and lead us through, we'll more than happily run through that gate and charge off with, you know, anything we can do. So, you know, if we can take that first step for others around us and kind of open that gate for them, it kind of gives them that, you know, openness to then talk about things. Especially like a few conversations with the boys recently, you know, they've always found it hard to, you know, front foot that they don't want to be the one to bring it up. But if we can do it for them and make them feel a bit more comfortable and ease, they'll talk for, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes on what they're going through. Yeah. And that's what I feel is exactly kind of what that wonderful lady did for me. You know, it's just kind of broke that door down and was like, you know, this is a safe space. Go for it.
And I'm asking you this as well. If we have a friend who has another friend who they know is going through something, and they want to, you know, be there for that friend, what do you guys think are, like, you know, the pivotal things that they can be doing to help open space for these people, for their friends? Sorry, like what are some practical steps? Like for me, it's one is not jumping in, not interrupting them while they're talking, like, and actually being present with them, looking at them in the eye, not being distracted by your phone. If Adam is, you know, telling me something deep and meaningful for you, I'm not going to be checking my phone and trying to write an email while you're doing that. You know, I think there's a lot of, we talked about this at Brothers Brain Chat, there's a lot of onus on people to speak up when maybe they don't speak up because you're not the type of person that they want to speak up to.
Yeah, you're not providing that.
You're not providing, so how about, maybe it's less about them not wanting to speak up because they don't have the courage. Maybe it's more about you don't provide that space. People don't feel vulnerable around you. People don't feel safe around you because maybe you try and find solutions for them rather than just hearing them out, like that lady did, you know. What tips do you guys have for anyone that might have a friend that they know is going through some mental turmoil?
I think same with you in regards to being present, and I also think if you can feel that someone might be going through something, they're not wanting to open up, and it might be that they're thinking they're going to feel judged or you're not going to understand because you've probably not experienced this. I think almost sharing something, being a bit vulnerable first yourself, like being, if you are like, how's things going, and they're not really opening up, being like, oh, well, can I share something with you? I've been struggling this week. I've been going through XYZ. And once you probably open up about some things, they will probably be like, well, you know what, actually, I have been going through a similar thing with my partner or at my work or whatever it might be. So I think, opening up that space by kind of being a bit vulnerable yourself first. Yeah,
and I think also, like, the tone of your voice plays a huge part of it. There's a difference in me saying, why, versus why. Why is that? Versus, why is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Hugely.
I'm saying two different things there.
Yeah.
Two of the same words, but my voice represents something different energy.
Yeah.
You know, I think voice plays a huge part in that.
And I think, you know, it's kind of like when you look at it, it's about trusting your gut. Like, we as people know our friends. We know how they act. They know kind of their ins and outs of who they are. And, you know, you can spot if somebody's off. And it's about trusting your gut to be like, hey, look, I've noticed, you know, you're feeling a bit down, or you seem a bit down, or you kind of not yourself lately. Are things okay? So it's just trusting yourself to be able to have that conversation and kind of step forward to them and be like, hey, look, I've noticed, you know, like you say, XYZ, you know, are things okay? And it kind of, you know, lets them know that other people can kind of, you know, see that they're not themselves. And I think when I was going through things, I thought, you know, this mask was perfect. You know, everybody thought I was massively happy. And, you know, the boys may have mentioned to me, you know, since they were like, you kind of tell, you know, you can spot somebody who hasn't slept all night, you know, like they are visibly tired and stuff like that. But then it's also kind of about changing that environment in which we have these conversations. So often we kind of find ourselves in a bit more of like a, not so much a formal setting, but it's kind of, we're sat down together having a chat.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of hard to let it all out in that space. If you're sitting at the pub having a beer with somebody, you don't want to let all this stuff out in front of everyone. When you're sitting there at the pub, it's massively changing the environment. Go for a walk with the guys, head off down to the beach. Me and the boys play like pitch and putt quite often, the short format golf. It's just a good way for the boys, to be together in a fun, safe space. It's kind of just us, no one really around us, and we can kind of talk about anything and everything we're going through there.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Environment. That's another pivotal point. Important thing to mention. Yeah, it's hard to be vulnerable in a public space like a bar. Because you're like,
Massively.
fuck, I don't want to start crying, and like, there's just people around here, my guards are up.
Yeah.
But if we are sitting on a park bench, it's very quiet, we're looking at the beach maybe, that's much more an environment for reflection, I've had many PTs as well hit me up and say, man, I can just feel that something is off with my client, but they won't open up to me. Well, first things first, I always say is like, of course, it's a gym.
Yeah.
It's packed. There's hundreds of people
There's so
around.
many people there, yeah.
It's fucking packed. And go outside for a walk, take them outside of that public space. Or if you can't do that, go to a corner in a gym and have their back against the gym and on you who is sitting in a corner. Because then no one can see them. Their back is against everyone else. Environment plays a huge part.
A massive part, and we're always like a byproduct of our environment, like if we are in these high stress situations all the time and stuff like that. I have a friend who reached out to me just recently saying, they're so stressed with work, everything's crazy about that. They just feel like they can't kind of get away from that space. And it was just kind of, looking at what can we kind of put in place, over the next week, try and pick 3 things that take you into a new space that's going to be for you, that's like fun, it's kind of de-stress, take yourself completely out of that workspace, delete your work emails off your phone just for those few days, and just kind of be able to switch off and find that new environment. And it's been a massive change. They love it.
I want to go back to what you said earlier before, bro, about not wanting to talk to anyone because you felt like you may be a burden. I think that is such a common thing as well for a lot of people. And you can jump in at any point that you want, Shanae. What advice would you give to someone who is currently in that thought process? They're going through some turmoil, but they feel like they will be a burden if they open up to their friends.
You're not. You never are. I think I'm blessed to have the friends I do. Nothing seems to be an issue for them. I can talk to them about absolutely anything now. But for me at the start, it was kind of about, I kind of picked and chose who I spoke to about certain things, because I didn't want to unload, I guess, the whole problem onto somebody. So I kind of started off with small snippets of things and kind of different, not so much different friend groups, but to different people that I kind of thought might be a little bit separate, that I could talk to this person here and it wouldn't always be what we always talked about as the whole thing. It didn't encompass all of our conversation. We'd catch up on, hey, how you doing with work? Work's okay, it's a bit tough, but we're getting through it. And that was kind of that problem part solved, and then we can just go about life. And over here I talked to somebody about, like relationship, and I can get through that part, how's this, blah, 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 and then we can go on and talk about other things, the fun stuff. So yeah, I kind of found that the best way to start with, kind of, I guess, through all of this journey has been breaking things down from big to small. How can I make them more of a sizable chunk to deal with? So yeah, it was kind of starting off small, and just finding, I guess, the right people to talk to. So often when we kind of talk about this stuff, everyone's there, like, going to send you a message, I'm always here if you need to. But like you mentioned before, there's some of those people that you're like, you're not quite the person I feel comfortable opening up to.
Yeah.
And I think, we can all probably pick 1 or 2 people in our life that we can kind of feel comfortable opening up to. And I think it's just starting there.
Yeah, also I think, like you said, there's there's professionals out there that you can message, or you can reach out to different people via email or something, that if you feel that you may be a burden to friends or family, or you might not feel you've got friends and family that are willing to listen, that there are professionals that's their job is just to listen.
Yeah.
And if you might feel more, I think some people might feel more comfortable opening up to almost a stranger in some regard, because there is no judgment, because that stranger doesn't know you at all or anything about you. Whereas sometimes with friends it might be that judgment of, or you might think that your friend's going to be like, oh, but you'll be fine, because you've got this and you've got that, you'll be all good. So yeah, I think finding that one or two friends or family that you might have, or otherwise, yeah, there's professionals there as well.
Brothers Brain Chat. I remember,
Yes.
bro, that conversation I had with you, I have repeated to many, many people. That was such a pivotal conversation with you. Because you're right. So, did you want to explain what Brothers Brain Chat is? Because I've been telling people it's like this group men's therapy session. Just the best way for me to like isolate it. But I know it's not therapy because there's no therapist there. But
Yeah.
like, you've been there multiple times. I'm sure you can articulate it better than I can.
Yeah, it's put on by For All the Brothers, from Zane from All the Brothers, absolute legend of a guy, and Arepa, the brain drink. So they kind of go hand in hand, you know. The thing up here is pretty wild, you know. The brain goes all over the place where it wants to. So I think for All the Brothers and Arepa to come together and create this Brothers Brain Chat has been massive. Yeah, it's one night every month, pretty much a Tuesday night, you know, each month that rolls around. It's a safe space created for men to come together and just talk about what they're going through, you know. Like, that is a space of pure safety and no judgment. You know, the first time I plodded along to Brothers Brain Chat, kind of sat at the back, a little bit nervous, you know, like, holy heck, there's like 30 other guys here, you know, like...
They're strangers.
Yeah, like, I don't know any of these dudes. Like, I know Zane, but like, that's about it. Like, this is weird. But then, you know, Zane is such an epic like facilitator, and I guess just the way he talks about everything makes you feel pretty much at ease within like the first few minutes of him talking, and then you kind of get thrown into what is almost a bit of a deep end. There's a bit of a format where Zane, you know, gives the room to everybody, and you need to go and talk to somebody you don't know or haven't met before, and you just kind of get to know that person. You spend, you know, 5-10 minutes learning about them, not so much their mental struggles per se at that point, just about them. Kind of that first conversation and always quite open, you know, getting to know each other and what they do and how they go about life, and then you kind of all come back together as a group. Then somebody else will, you know, there's kind of always a guest speaker that comes forward. Somebody else is doing amazing stuff in the mental health space, or, you know, doing these real cool things to kind of help the community out. And then you get thrown back into hanging out with another person from that room, but this time it's a little bit deeper. You start unpacking why they're there, kind of what they might be going through, and then it's the same to you. You can unpack what you're going through, and it's this really cool space, because by the time you get to that second conversation with that second person, it's free flowing, you know. Like, it's getting to the point now, I think Zane's kind of struggling to bring the group back together, because, you know, there's been so many good conversations that are had in that space, and literally, you know, like, then we all come back together, and then he opens it up to the floor again, you know, as anybody kind of wanting to step forward and, you know, share some tips or tricks that they've used to get through what they've gone through. And, you know, you've got people left, right and centre putting their hand up saying, you know, I'm doing this, or I've been going through this, you know, I've faced addiction and now I've been clean for 6 months because of XYZ. And it's just such an incredible space to sit in and see these like 30 to 40 complete strangers open up massively and give all these tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. Like, I go every month, every time it pops up, I'm there.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Tickets cost $10 to attend, and like all of that is donated to the Mental Health Foundation, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm sold. I want to come every month as well. And I was right. You better articulate it than I ever could. I went to Brothers Brain Chat because I was curious. I was like, how do you get a group of strangers, of men, to talk about mental health? I was like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
And I too was fucking nervous when I came, because I was like, I'm just going to go by myself.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear on how to get there. I went on the other wrong side of the fucking road.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you're right. Zane is such a good facilitator. So that first get together with a random person, he just says, meet them. And of course, naturally, it's a stranger. You're not going to go deep. And then he flags it, right? And he goes, how many of you actually talked about your mental health? And it was like, most people are like, oh, fuck all of us.
Yeah.
Right? And then get to another person. Then you actually start. He navigates it so well, bro. So fucking well.
Yeah. And I think that makes such a big difference in that space.
Yeah.
To kind of have that person at the front to steer that ship just with, the way he facilitates the space. It's cool.
And I remember talking to you and hearing all the boys' stories, some of them like coming from addiction, some of them doing some just what seemed so huge and made my mental health seem so minuscule. And you're right, there was this feeling of like, oh fuck, my shit's so small, I don't even want to bring this shit up.
Yeah.
This competitiveness out of me being like, oh, I can't compete with that, or I don't want to one up that, I cannot one up that. Let's just leave the space for these men to talk about their stuff, and I'll just be a passenger on this ride. And then you were like, it's not about that though.
Yeah.
You know, it's your feelings are your feelings, your experiences are your experiences. And then I remember walking home back to my car from that, and I was like, fuck, I am the problem. The fact that I think that my problems are small invalidates my experience of my mental health.
Yep.
Thinking that way, disallows me to open up and be vulnerable because I'm trying to compare myself to other people.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, that is the problem. That is the problem that a lot of us go through. That we think that we are minuscule and compared to everyone else, that we're a burden.
Yeah, definitely. And
You
like
know?
when you kind of sit there and, you sit and hear these stories of other people going through these crazy things, and you're like, shit, like none of that relates massively to what they're going through. Like, they've had it so tough, and like, that was kind of me at the start as well, like my problems are so minuscule. Like, I've had this incredible upbringing, mum and dad have been amazing, friends, family, all of this.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like I didn't have the right to feel like that. Like, I've been blessed, with incredible friends, an amazing family. How can you sit there and have these problems? And I think it's, just understanding that they are your problems. It doesn't matter what you've had the luxury of growing up with. It's still an issue. It's still causing you, pain and problems, and is really getting you down. Like, I kind of said to you that night as well, like, what hurts me might not hurt you, but what hurt you, might not hurt me. And I think it's understanding that part, that we all have different problems, but it's, understanding that they matter. It kind of, if it is hurting and it is getting you down, like, talk about it.
Yeah, what dawned on me was that we may have different vehicles, but pain is pain and adversity is adversity, and
That's
everyone
it.
goes through it. We just have different vehicles for it,
Yes.
different ways to experience it.
And things like depression don't discriminate. Like, there's
Not at all.
There's no, you're this type of person, therefore you're more likely to get it versus this person. Like, it's all different things that can be different triggers or different experiences for different people.
Yeah, that was such a great reminder. So thank you for giving me that gift, bro.
No
that
worries.
night. What non-negotiables do you have in your routine to help upkeep your mental fitness now, bro?
I probably have 3 that I've got them like nailed down to. Movement. Movement's massive. I feel a lot of people, when they talk about mental health, they always push exercise, and for some people exercise can be daunting. And it's kind of just down to movement. Like, some days I don't have enough time in my day through like work and stuff to go to the gym or whatever, but it could be as simple as walking to work that day, or just getting out for a walk during lunchtime, something to get myself moving. I find so often we sit sometimes in our problems and just don't really go anywhere. So movement's been massive. Sunshine is key for me. I think getting outside at kind of any chance I get, and I guess with Ironman training I've had no choice but to enjoy the sunshine and the rain on more than a lot of occasions lately, and music, which is a great, I feel, stress reliever for myself. It's somewhere I can just put some music on and drift away into not really thinking about things. I'm lucky enough to sit at a cool spot now. I can turn off the brain and just enjoy the music for what it is, you know.
What do you listen to?
Oh, you know, we vary.
Yeah, it depends on the mood.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm a bit of Drake if I'm getting dressed, you know what I mean?
I can just imagine you seeing around to it too.
While he's doing his shadow boxing.
I'm in the bathroom mirror.
Shirt off in the mirror.
Every day.
Yeah.
But if I'm in the car, you know, put some 80s old school in, especially if it's a sunny day on a Sunday. Oh, it's fun. If it's raining, then a little bit of John Mayer. But anyway,
Nobody
Man's
asked.
gone, he ran away.
yeah, no one asked me.
Yeah, I think for me it's, you know, a lot of, you know, electronic EDM music, you know, from like your Rufus to Souls
Yeah.
to, you know, Netsky, Wilkinson, to then on the other side, you know, like Mac Miller, kind of, yeah, just flips and tumbles, you know, Tash Sultana.
Yeah, that's a vibe. Tash
Yeah,
and
just to be able to flick that on like a Sunday and just enjoy, you know, Tash and just kind of get away from the world for a little while.
What I was going to ask, we've been chatting about this a bit recently, the link between sort of exercise, movement and mental health. Like, do you feel with all this training in the lead up to your Ironman, how do you feel that's linked in with your journey with your mental health?
Massively. Exercise and movement, I guess, you know, it's a key thing for me and kind of always has been in life, you know, with training and that kind of stuff. But it's kind of given me the motivation every day to go out and move, or given me the reason to do it. And I think that's why Ironman's kind of been so important in this journey for me, is it's given me a reason every single day to move, even if I don't want to, or if I know it's going to be horrifically hard, you know. I don't want to go out and train some days, but I know it's going to be good for me, and it's more about having that discipline to keep doing it. But yeah, the movement and exercise through this Ironman journey has been so massive in helping my mental health. Yeah, you get out there, even though you don't want to, you start, you know, some days it's like a 6-hour bike ride. And it's you and yourself out there, you know, it's you and your bike. No music, because you're not allowed to listen to music out on the Ironman course. No headphones, no nothing, so you've got to get used to that. So it really gave me a time just to be with myself. You know, I got to sit out there and go through these things. Just me and old mate up here, you know, having a chat for a few hours.
Yeah, because we've got a mutual friend who said that he disagrees. Well, what did he say? I'll butcher it.
Not really. I think we're just asking people's opinion on that correlation between, because you know how some trainers will say, like, you know, push through, this is the hardest thing you'll do all day, that kind of thing in the gym, when they're saying not really. Like, if someone's dealing with shit, like what they're doing at the gym is completely different. There's no correlation there. Whereas some people say no, that, you know, pushing through in the gym does correlate to being able to push through with other things that you might be going with, or like you feel the identity traits that you work on in the gym do correlate to the identity traits.
100%. I mean, like, Adam just said it himself.
Yeah.
Finding a reason, motivation, doing hard things, the discipline, the discipline that it took for you to get on that bike, even though you didn't want to. You can apply that to cleaning your house. You might not want to clean your house, but you got to do it. You got to stick to that discipline. So the behavioral traits that you apply to your training, you can apply in other areas of your life. You know, the same patience, resilience, and courage that it takes to work towards a 100 kg deadlift, you can apply to saving 10 grand for money. So you can go traveling. That also takes courage, perseverance, and resilience to save money when you don't fucking want to. You know, that's the correlation with training and mental health. Now, let's say you're going through relationship problems and your partner is abusive. Does lifting 5 sets of deadlifts fix that? No, of course not. Of course not. But you can correlate certain behaviors into that situation, right? And I think if you've got an abusive partner and you're listening to this, you need go get specific help for that, to actually find a solution for that specific life situation. Yeah.
And I was going to link in with this, with your Ironman training, I'd seen on your Instagram that swimming was the probably most challenging part.
100%. It still
and
is.
I was like, Marwan,
I can't swim.
To that 'cause he's...
I can't swim.
I was on the same boat before Ironman.
You couldn't swim?
I couldn't swim more than 25 metres properly. So, like, if I had to get from A to B, maybe 20 to 30 meters, I could get there, but it wouldn't be pretty.
Doggy paddle.
Yeah, like a makeshift freestyle with my head out of the water all over the place, be horrifically out of breath.
Yeah.
By that point, before Ironman I couldn't swim properly.
I can't even go into deep water, bro.
Like,
if you were to chuck me into deep water,
Yeah.
see you later.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. Deep water is one of my biggest fears in life.
Wow.
There we go. And then I saw you had adult swimming lessons. I've been trying to say, Mum, let's get you into some
100%.
adult swimming lessons.
They're incredible. Like, it was just this kind of like ego thing around it when it came to swimming. Like, I don't want to go get an adult swimming lesson. Like,
Definitely, that's where I'm at.
yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be around like 5-year-olds. I didn't even know that they were
embarrassing.
adults.
Yeah. But I had no choice. I had to swim. You've got to do a 3.8k swim at the start of the Ironman. And I was like, I need to learn how to swim. I went along, did my adult swimming lessons. Was nowhere near what I had imagined. There's no kids in sight, bro, so you're safe. There's people who are literally either of the same ability as you are, some slightly better, but there's always a few others that might be struggling a bit more than you are. And that kind of made me feel a little bit better. I could swim this rogue 25 meters in this weird style, and some people can't. Some people can't even float in the water, and so that kind of made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, swimming still sucks. I hate it with a passion.
But you did a 3.8k
Swim, yeah, not
as part of an Ironman.
yeah, just the swim cutoff for an Ironman is 2 hours 20, and it took me 2 hours 10 minutes.
Awesome.
And I think I'm probably the only kid who's swum that backstroke.
You swim backstroke?
Yeah. So in the first 100 meters, because Ironman New Zealand is one of the only events still in the world that has a mass start. So all athletes are in the water together.
Yeah.
The cannon goes off, and you all leave at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So there's like 1,200 people in the water.
I assume people get kicked in the face.
Yeah. So the first 100 meters, I got a kick in the head. And I was like, oh God, I kind of knew that might happen. Okay, like you're okay. Because there'd been so much emotion building into this day. I was panicking when I got in the water. My heart rate's out of control. I kind of looked at my watch after the swim, and at the start, my heart rate was like between 195 and like 202. Like, I'm freaking out before this thing starts. And then first 100 meters, kicked in the head. I was like, okay, it's okay. You're okay. If you really want to, you can stand up. You can touch the ground.
You can touch the ground the whole time?
So you can self-seed in the water for Ironman. So if you're like a Harry Hardout, you can paddle all the way out to the buoy, which is real deep, and you got like a straight line down to there. Or if you're a bit more nervous, you can kind of start closer in and kind of angle yourself out towards the swim course. So I kind of seated myself here, kind of away from everybody. Thought that wouldn't happen. Kicked in the head. A couple more meters later, I got like pushed under. I think somebody was just kind of like doing their swim stroke and just kind of caught my shoulder and like pushed me under when I didn't expect it. So like mouth full of water, full blown panic, like and then lost my goggles. They came off my head, had to find them. So like in this first like 200 meters of the swim, everything that went wrong could have gone wrong. But I just remember my coach and this incredible lady Verna, who gave me the scholarship. She said, whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And at that point, I found my goggles and I was like, I can't breathe properly with my swimming. What's the best way I can do this? So I just rolled over on my back. And like through my adult swimming lessons, they'd added backstroke in there for like a few sessions and stuff like that and given me the right techniques for it. I was like, well, this is me. Here we go. Like, I looked at my watch to see, how much time have I got to do this? Not much. Heck, okay, let's keep going. Backstroke the whole thing, which was wild.
Wow. There's such a big gap at the moment from the day at the beach to actually doing the Ironman. How long was that gap?
2 years.
2 years. So you trained for 2 years.
Yeah.
At any point, were you like, oh, maybe I'm all good. I don't want to do it anymore. Or what was your reason?
There were heaps of times where I didn't want to do it anymore. Like, there'd be so many times, even like specifically getting closer to the day, I was like, I can't do this. I felt like such an imposter jumping into this world of multi-sport. This guy who's never done a multi-sport event before. I've never done a triathlon or anything. trying to take on this mammoth task of like an Ironman, you know. I felt bad like talking to people who were in the sport and been doing it for ages. So yeah, it was just try and keep plodding along, you know, like you know, you asked kind of about my why.
Yeah.
The why was trying to use that journey to, I guess, inspire others back from the brink of self-destruction. How can I use my vulnerability in taking on this challenge to help others potentially in a bad situation? And for me, that was the biggest thing, is connecting into that why and making it the reason. You know, on the beach that night, the lady also said, what if it could turn out better than you could possibly imagine? And you know, that's kind of one of the hallmark sayings that's really got me through the whole journey. You know, I've got it tattooed on my hand, so I see it all the time. And it's just a constant reminder to, you know, really keep pushing. And, you know, what if things can turn out better than you possibly imagine? And, you know, I guess I'm lucky enough they have, especially through this journey, but having such a strong connection to the why, you know, doing it for the boys around me, doing it to hopefully inspire others, really pushed me through those times. You know, there were so many times in training, especially in my swimming, that I'm like, I can't fucking do this. You know, like, my coach was asking me to swim like 1.8k as part of my training on, you know, like a Wednesday night, it's raining outside, gotta go to the pool. I was like, I just don't want to do this. Like, this sucks. But it was, you know, having that fundamental why sitting there. And it was almost kind of like I was just doing it for other people. You know, if I don't go out and train, I'm going to let somebody down in this process. And that really drove me to keep pushing on.
Yeah. Knowing that the swimming was your weakest point, was the rest of it, I guess, relatively digestible? Like the run and the cycle?
Yeah.
No.
I think just because swimming was so daunting to me and like the deep water was so scary, that so much of my thought process was, you've just got to get through the swim. And like leading into Ironman, I hadn't really thought about the bike too much or the run too much. I was so focused on the swim, and I'd put so much pressure around it to get through the swim. You know, that's the part everyone's worried about.
Right.
You know, my friends and family are like, fuck, he's just got to get through the swim. You know, like, I think there's a photo, or there's a sign that my girlfriend got made that the boys are holding at the end when I come out of the water. Yeah, you didn't drown. You know, like, everyone was kind of worried about that part. But I think with everything through the journey, when I kind of looked at Ironman, a lot of what I've been through has been broken down into sizable chunks. You know, after that phone call on the beach, you know, I had micro goals set for me for the next 3 days. Once I got through 3 days, it became a week became 2. And it's kind of what I've done with Ironman. You know, for the swim, there's 25 boys in the water. You know, it's boy by boy. You count them out, you know. Okay, 25, 24, 23, you know, breaking it down. Same as the bike. You know, it's 4 45-kilometre bike rides.
Right.
You know, you get them into smaller bits that are kind of more manageable than, you know, 3.8k, 180, 42. And yeah, it's kind of been one of the helpful tools that have got me through that journey of, you know, just breaking things down. How do we make it smaller and manageable day by day? And especially having tick boxes each day of those manageable goals, to be able to like physically tick something off on my day gives me a sense of satisfaction.
Yeah. Did anything surprise you, or anything out of the ordinary happen during the race?
Yeah, I think the mental strength and determination that came out that day, you know, I look back on it and it's like something I've never felt before. You know, I got through the swim, you know, having to talk. I was like lucky enough I could talk to myself, because I'm doing backstroke, you know, you can talk your face out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, I talked to myself the whole way around that swim course.
Like, verbally?
Yeah.
Wow.
Out loud. You know, like a guy came past on the kayak and was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, mate, this is shit, but I'm okay." Paddling away. I think it was, out on the bike. 135k into the bike ride, blistering hot sun. Like, there was no clouds. It was steaming. I was sunburnt. And I was in so much physical pain, like I couldn't take a deep breath. Just my kidneys felt like they were going to explode. Like, it was either too much water, it's kind of like diluted, all the salt in the body and stuff like that, and it's making the kidneys work too hard, or I just hadn't had enough salt. I just couldn't figure out which one it was. It was too sore. It got to the point I was in that much pain, I asked to see a medic at, kind of the back end of the course. And the lady kind of like looked at me and was like, I don't know what to do, like I don't know who to call. And kind of at that point of the day, it was getting a bit tight on time for me to get back before the cutoff for the bike. I was like, oh shit, I was like, I don't have time, I'm sorry, I gotta go. And she's like, okay. And yeah, from that point I just jumped back on the bike, because I was physically off the bike at this point talking to her. And I just jumped back on the bike and cycled another, however many Ks back into Taupo. Chucked my running shoes on and did a marathon.
Fuck yeah, now.
But yeah, like I think that, like I said, that mental strength and determination, if you told me I had to do another 3 laps on top of what I was doing, I could have done it. I wholeheartedly feel like there was nothing stopping me that day. They would have had to physically peel me off the road to get me off that course. I'd put so much behind it, and I had felt like I had so many people relying on me to finish this, that there was no way I was never going to not finish.
Do you reckon you'll do it again?
I think the further I get away from the day, the more I'm like, yeah, I'll do that again.
Yeah.
Which is quite wild to think. Like it always been in my brain, one and done. See ya. Don't want to do that again. But I think it's just, I don't know, that sense of feeling when you're out there on the course, like the Taupo community.
That's my hometown, G.
Gets up and gets around it,
fuck yeah, they do.
It was incredible to like be a part of, like from everything that went into it, and then to see all these people just giving back.
Yeah. Just
for the sake of giving back, like they were some of the friendliest people, and some of those people, the smiles and stuff they gave you out there on the course, I got multiple hugs from random people that, just Mercury volunteers out there giving up their day. And especially through the scholarship as well, like the support in the Taupo town, like it was incredible. But yeah, dare I say it, 2024?
You heard it here first.
Might do it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Taupo community rallies. My father always volunteers, and I've never seen my father cheer so loud.
Yeah.
The whole town just loves it, bro. They
incredible.
light up.
The vibe in the whole town, like I got down there on Thursday lunchtime and the place is just buzzing.
Yeah.
Like there's people everywhere, there's things going on.
Yeah.
And just everyone you speak to, because you get like an athlete wristband when you check in.
Yeah.
And you have to wear that from like when you get it to, post race. You can just be walking around town and people will see your wristband and say, hey, best of luck for this weekend, you're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And you just wouldn't expect that.
Yeah. You've mentioned scholarship a couple of times now. What scholarship is this?
I was lucky enough to be awarded the Tony Jackson Scholarship for Ironman New Zealand. They give out a scholarship to one person each year. And so, I applied for the scholarship. It's a written application. You kind of submit that, and then you also submit a video with that as well. So the scholarships, obviously in memory of Tony Jackson, who passed away in 2013. He's an Ironman New Zealand Hall of Fame legend. He completed 28 Ironmans in a row, from number 1 to 28.
So that's every year?
Every year. So in kind of the last, I think 2 or 3, he completed with a brain tumour. He was diagnosed with a brain tumour. The doctor said, hey, look, foot off the gas pedal a little bit, kind of calm down. And he's like, nah, all good.
The bro Tony.
And so, from then his incredible wife, Verna, and Ironman New Zealand have got together to create the scholarship in kind of memory of Tony. It's kind of a scholarship for people who've faced adversity getting to the start line. For everyday people who think they can't achieve the extraordinary. And that was massively Tony's, philosophy. Anything is possible if the mind is willing. And so it's just for his kind of legacy to live on and keep inspiring other people to create these journeys and, you know, achieve these amazing things. You know, I probably can say hand on heart, I wouldn't have got to the start line, let alone the finish line, without the scholarship. The support that comes with it. You know, Verna herself is the most incredible lady. You know, she's herself is no slouch. She's done multiple Ironmans as well. You know, her and Tony, you know, would wait for each other at the start of the finish shoot so they could run down together. Just incredible, like, cool things like that. And her support through that whole journey is massive. And I think, you know, just being 4th March 2023 was their 10-year wedding anniversary, like that weekend was, and that was the day of the Ironman. And, you know, I think Tony was kind of really with me in those last few kilometres on that run course. You know, like, my quads were gone. Like, they were in so much pain, but there was just kind of nothing stopping me getting to that finish line. You know, the boys were out there with me. They're not supposed to be, but for the last few, like, kilometres, my girlfriend was there. She walked, I don't know, maybe 15 kilometres alongside me on that run course. The boys kind of did the last lap, and they, you know, you could hear some of them kind of like behind me, like, bro, can you slow down, bro? Like, I can't keep up. And one of them's like, shit, I got chafe, like. And you're like, and just like, it was quite funny, but you know, there was just such a determination to get there. And I think, yeah, that scholarship was huge. You know, it gave me a full-time coach who wrote my program from, like, start to finish. It gave me access to this incredible bike mechanic called Ben, who literally sorted my whole bike out anytime something was wrong or I bought a new bike, and just their general expertise in this, like, I don't know, blanket of support that comes from these incredible people.
Did that scholarship fund the whole thing?
Yeah, so the scholarship includes entry to Ironman, $1,000 Prezi card to go towards, like, training gear and stuff, 2 nights accommodation in Taupō for training prior to the weekend. Your full-blown coaching package from Andrew at Boost Coaching. He's insane coach, like, unbelievable. And then Ben from Performance Bike Tuning, he's just another insane human. They give up their time for free as part of the scholarship to, you know, help Verna and Ironman New Zealand through this. That scholarship was detrimental to getting me there.
You're running, you turn the corner, you see the finish line, you see the big clock, Ironman. Is it the last leg? What's going through your mind?
I took probably like 20 or 30 seconds before entering the finishing chute to myself. Like, I'd obviously had so much support around me all day. Like, I've had a film crew with me. It's part of the scholarship. They kind of, like, film the journey and they're making a bit of a documentary about it. So, like, there's always been people constantly there the whole time with me through the day. And I kind of just stopped. Like, made sure nobody was kind of around me so I didn't ruin anybody's, like, run to the finish line, and just stopped and took 20 to 30 seconds to kind of just take it all in. You know, like, you can stand there because you come down one of the main strips of Taupō and you turn onto the grass, and it's kind of like a U-turn onto the finishing chute. And so I kind of, like, stopped at the top. It was at the top of, like, a little hill that, you know, banks down, and you can kind of see the finish line and everybody there. And it's just, I just took 20, 30 seconds to be like, holy shit, we've done it. You know, like, I didn't have worlds of time to finish. Like, it was 20 minutes before the cut-off day. Like, it was done. Like, you couldn't finish after that point. So I had 20 minutes. But I was like, I'd take this time just to have a moment to myself and be like, look, you've done it. You know, you've come so far to this point. Enjoy these last 20 metres. And I took every ounce of energy I had in my body to run that last 20 metres. Like, there was no way I was not getting around that corner and running across the finish line. And so, yeah, just came down that finishing chute, you know, and just to hear them start talking, obviously, about the scholarship and the journey that I've been on and why I'm doing this, kind of, hit me like a ton of bricks running down that, like, finishing chute, you know, across the finishing line. Was crying. And the real, like, special part was Mum and Dad were standing at the end to give me my finishing medal and my towel. Normally it's, like, you know, like a Mercury volunteer or someone from Ironman. It was Mum and Dad. And I think it was quite, you know, like, symbolic to finish this massive whole journey back in Mum and Dad's arms. you know, for them just to give me this big hug, and you know, and to hear those words from Dad and be like, he's like, Dad just whispered in my ear and he's like, I'm so proud of you. And I think like that for me, I've never felt anything like that before. It was like incredible. You know, it was, yeah, that finishing line, like that 20 meters is life changing. And they say, you know, Ironman is life changing, and I didn't believe it until, you know, I kind of came down that part. Mum and Dad, and you kind of like look past them, got my girlfriend, my sisters, all the boys who've been there with me that whole time, you know, Verna's standing there and out in the corner like crying as well. And I think that's probably the most sweetiest hug I've given to a lot of people.
With bunged up kidneys.
Yeah, kidneys like they're gonna explode, quads are shaking. Like,
what was the recovery like, bro?
Day after was pretty tough. Actually, to be fair, once you finish, you head into the recovery tent. You get checked by the medical team. And then it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet in there.
Let's go.
There's like all-you-can-eat. There's like...
I'll run an Ironman for
saying,
that.
yeah.
Just jokes.
You'd be a volunteer for that.
Yeah, I'll be a
You can volunteer
Adam,
in
dude,
there.
give us your soup. Give us your soup. I'm going.
Yeah, there's like all the soups you could want, savouries, you know, chips, all sorts. It was like what I didn't expect it to be that big when I walked in. There was food everywhere. And then
you ate straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like throughout the whole day I hadn't eaten anything of real substance. It's either energy gels or like small muesli bars or these little gummies that give you like electrolytes and energy.
Yeah.
And then so just smashed into it like 6 or 7 like sausage rolls, big thing of chips, some soup. It's happy as. And then on the other side is like massage therapists already there just to help you out, and just I kind of like waddled over with my plate of food. I'm pretty sure I got this all wrong, and that person, like, people finished eating before they went over there. I took my food over there, and he's like, do you want to finish that first? I was like, I'll just like eat it through the little hole on the table. And he's like, I think, okay. So I'm probably the only person to do that, but yeah, had this full blown massage there, eating my food. But yeah, the Sunday, it was kind of more like the sit down stand up part was the hardest. Just like my legs were just shot after the bike ride. And yeah, since then it's kind of just been taking life easy, you know, haven't really done too much. Just make sure, you know. Is
there still effects, the after effects? Are you still in recovery mode? How long has it been, bro?
Oh, we're 4th of March, so what are we now? It's almost like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and you're still in recovery mode, you feel?
Yeah, definitely. I think the body, you know, is still trying to catch up on things.
Yeah.
I think I put it into such a state of shock.
Of course.
On that day, it was like, what the hell is going on here? So we're slowly piecing ourselves together, you know, like I'm still peeling from the sunburn. Like that sunburn's probably the worst I've ever had that day. I'm like on my back from my tri-suit, I've got this like, these 2 perfect like semicircles.
Kidneys all good?
Kidneys are all good. Yeah, it was kind of something they were slightly worried about. My coach was like, we need to keep an eye on these. But yeah, everything's kind of come right. The mind's...
What will you do differently if you were to do an Ironman again?
Swim more.
Yeah.
Hugely like... Yeah, actually like swim properly. Finish, you know, each section with enough time to kind of enjoy them a bit more and not panic that I'm not going to make the cutoff time. But I think it would be kind of to dive into the help offered more. You know, like I have Andrew, who was this insane coach, who's an incredible swim coach. But I guess I was kind of in my process of doing my own thing. Like I had my own swim coach who was already kind of working with me, and I was always worried that I'd let Andrew down if I couldn't make it, you know, work so busy, or my swimming ability wasn't where it needed to be to work with Andrew.
Yeah.
So I never really worked with him in that capacity. But given that chance again, I would 100% just embrace all of that.
Some of my biggest takeaways from today's conversation is that if you have a goal, turn it into bite-sized, achievable tasks, and it makes it a bit more digestible and a lot more easier, it seems, to achieve.
Yeah, and it was kind of, I was lucky enough Ironman gave me that vehicle to incorporate my mental health stuff into my training plan. So, you know, like, I'm training 6 days a week, almost twice a day. But some of those training blocks are dedicated to seeing my therapist, isn't there? So like Wednesday might be, 6 or 7K run in the morning, Wednesday night therapy, or Friday 2.5 hour bike ride, hang out with your life coach. And it built me like a structure for, I guess, those, especially the latter part of the training or getting closer to Ironman, the last 8 months of having this real solid structure that I could come off with, and it's massively helped in that process.
We've just got 2 more questions before we wrap up, bro. The first one is, where can people find you so they can keep up with your journey and support you?
It's just Instagram, just my full name, Adam Sommerville. Lots of stuff goes up on there. It's probably, I guess, the main platform I use, really.
And the last one, bro, if you were to show up to the Adam who is sitting on the beach at Milford, and you two look each other in the eye, and he asks you for advice, what would you tell him?
I'd probably look at him and say, don't underestimate the hole your absence would leave. You matter to so many people on this planet, and what you're about to achieve is something I don't even think you can wrap your head around. So let's go get it.
Adam Sommerville, everybody.
Thank you, team.